Views of the Apostle Islands. Ferry schedule and information available at madferry.com.
Well, we have a lot of shade in the woodland area, and I did a stepping stone path, but I was never happy with what it looked like in between. So I started pulling out bits of moss here and there in the woods and tucking them between the stepping stones until I ended up with a mossy stepping stone path to the lake. In addition to that, we had an old patio that was there from the original cabin from the 1950s, and having not been taken care of, it started growing moss. And my friends were all like, "You're going to power wash that off, aren't you, or kill it?" And I said, I kind of like that moss. So I decided to start mixing up batches of moss with like buttermilk and kind of brushing it onto the concrete until I got a complete mossy patio. And I love it. It's soft underfoot, and it looks lush because it's so pretty green.
The Madeline Island Ferry, transporting passengers, bicycles, and vehicles between Bayfield, Wisconsin and Madeline Island, while our customers enjoy the beauty of Lake Superior and views of the Apostle Islands. Ferry schedule and information available at madferry.com.
Rick's Tree and Stump Removal provides tree care services in the Northland. Their certified arborists offer tree trimming, removal, and stump grinding for residential and commercial properties. More information at rickstreeduluth.com.
So we started square foot gardening. The purpose of square foot or small container gardening is to get more produce out of a smaller area. And we started doing it about 10 years ago, and now we have 6 garden beds, and it really reduces our carbon footprint for one, and it also, it keeps us healthier by having homegrown foods. The first bed is beans and peas. They both climb up the trellis, and it produces enough to can beans, and I don't can peas, but to have fresh peas all summer long. The second bed is garlic, both soft and hardneck garlic, that you plant in the fall and cover, and it actually starts growing in winter. And then we plant romaine lettuce in between the garlic, and the garlic protects the romaine from insects, and then put watermelon radish also in that bed. Then the other beds, we have tomatoes, and we always put French marigolds in our gardens. It also keeps insects away. Basil and
I like the way they lay them out. They're not just straight lines anymore.
Blueberries will take about 5 years for a bush to ripen before you can get a viable fruit crop off of it.
But this is the coneflower, and very popular with bees.
This is a weeping larch, deciduous, so it'll turn golden in the fall.
The variety that we have, it's inspiring.
Hello and welcome to Great Gardening. I'm horticulturist Bob Olin. I'm joined by garden professional Deb Burns Erickson, and Sharon has the night off. We want to hear from gardeners across the region who have questions for us. We have phone volunteers with the St. Louis County Master Gardeners standing by. Please call us locally at 218-788-2847 or email us at ask@pbsnorth.org. First, let's start tonight with a look at the weather in our region, enjoyed by some very early visitors. The American white pelicans have enjoyed some springtime weather along the St. Louis River as they migrate north. Wasn't it beautiful footage?
It was great, and the music was awesome.
It's in Chambers Grove right here in Duluth, so very appreciative of that. That means spring is on the way. Please keep calling in with your questions. Before we get to those, Deb, what do you have to start off the program with?
So we get a lot of questions on what deer don't like and what people can plant that will not deter them but slow them down. Because we all know once it gets to about August 18th or so and they start to put on their winter weight, then there's no stopping them. So this is just going to get you through hopefully the summer. And some nice containers you can do en masse. But there are 4 things that deer do not prefer. They do not prefer fine, fuzzy, fragrant foliage. And so some of these things we're going to start out with have those things, and so they just work really well for. So one thing is lavender. Lavender is very fine. It's fuzzy, somewhat of a fuzzy stem, and it's fragrant, and it has a flower on it, and they don't seem to like it. It's not hardy, so we do treat it as an annual. And so there's some great lavenders that are out there that you can get. There's also, this is lobularia, or it is also known as alyssum, and it has a very fragrant scent to the flowers, and although the flowers kind of taste like broccoli, but so that's another one that's fine and fragrant. Then there is kind of another class is like ageratum. So this is ageratum, and it has alkaloids, bitter alkaloids that they don't like, and they're kind of toxic to them. So you can do this in mass. Ageratum is beautiful, and they come in a few different colors and a few different sizes. So those are fun, and they're kind of fuzzy too. Another thing that they don't like, and this is just we get a lot of this from customers that tell us this, wax begonias. And I'm gonna guess there is some bitter compound to it because it looks like a hosta leaf. I mean, it's smooth, it's not really very fragrant, and I don't know, other than there must be something like an alkaloid or some kind of bitterness to it that they don't care for. And then there are coleus. There are so many different coleus, and they do not like coleus. And I think it's a lot of the serration in the leaves. It's a lot of, I don't know if it's the color that bothers them at all, but it just, and they are in the mint family, so they have kind of square stems. I don't know if that all goes into why they don't like it, but they don't seem to. And they're gorgeous. Coleus are gorgeous. They come in every kind of color, and you can mix them in any kind of pot. You can do anything you want with them. And another great one that a lot of people tell us is salvia. So salvia, this is a couple there's so many different salvias. The breeding is getting really fantastic on salvias, but the deer do not like those either. Again, it must be something in them that they don't prefer. And there's so many colors, and you can do so much with salvia. And then one other one that we also like is lantana. And lantana, I know why they don't like lantana. It's very fragrant, and it kind of smells like lemon or citrus. People either love lantana or they hate it. And we really like it just because it can do a good job of deterring. Another thing that I didn't bring, which is not the foxglove digitalis also has the flavonoids or the alkaloids in them. And we've had customers tell us that actually, and I classify a lot of the digitalis or foxglove as an annual because a lot of them they're not hardy. But we've had people tell us that they will keep deer 2 feet away from them. So that must be something that is really bitter to them and that they know is going to get toxic for them, and they just don't like it.
That's just great. Thanks, Deb. There's lots of good choices, lots of color there. People will opt for repellents. Now, the one thing we want to caution people a little bit about is keeping those repellents off many edibles. So always read that label if you're going to use some of it, and rotating repellents is another good option. But there are some methods of deer control. Thanks, Deb, very much. Very interesting. Let's get on to some of your questions. We'll start here. We've got Katie in Brimson who asks a question, will chicken wire keep ground squirrels out of my garden? Chicken wire.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
It's way too big, in my opinion.
Not only that, ground squirrels have this tendency to dig under just about everything.
Yep. They get real flat, they get real thin.
Yes. So really, I think you're going to have to look at trapping for an option. And
a
there
good
are
one.
live traps. There are a number of traps that can in fact be used, but they're a little tricky.
Yeah.
So they are definitely a little challenge to.
Hardware cloth might work. Maybe, but you got to get it down in the ground.
Gotta
You got
get
a
it
lot
down.
of work to get.
Yeah, ground squirrels can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
She also asks, she mentions the fact that she's tried fencing just about everything. So I think that you're going to have to look at some kind of trapping system.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we got Amy from Hermantown. When should I trim my hydrangeas? And if I wanted to move them, when's a good time?
Well, it's a great time to move them right now. I would. So my philosophy on hydrangeas, because there's so many varieties, there's so much breeding going on there, so many different types, is once they bloom, shape them the way you want. You cannot screw up on shaping at that time, any kind of them. But transplanting now, you can do that now.
Perfect time to transplant. You know, as you well know, Deb, they can bloom on either new wood, which comes up this year, or old wood, which was formed last fall. So if you're going to, and some on both, that's what's so confusing. So you want to look at where those buds are and what's viable tissue. If it's old and dead, take it out. If not, cut it back to where you got good, lush green tissue.
Right.
Okay, question here. This is an easy one. This came from Susan in Saginaw. Is it safe to plant your onions right now?
Bob, of course. How many have you put in, Bob?
Not enough yet, but there will be a lot going in the ground, that's for sure. Excellent time. As a matter of fact, you really want to get those in. You want to take advantage of all of this wonderful sunlight we have in the month of May. Okay, is it necessary? This came from Mary in Duluth. Necessary to change soil every year in your annual beds?
Ooh.
And if yes, what kind of soil? Well,
I don't think you have to change it. I think if you have a good base and you need to add organic to it every year, that's going to give you fertility. And I like to mix it up, blend it. You don't know what you're going to get down below. And I like just a really nice top coat. A few inches of a really good organic soil makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I think you're not going to replace, you're going to add to. One thing I've seen, Killing Almost with Kindness, where people are adding so much organic now that is changing pH and other things. I've seen so many soil tests that people are wondering what's going on. So I think you want to add organic. You need a nitrogen source every year. You want to stir it up. You don't necessarily be tilling, particularly a perennial bed, but you do want to work those materials in, but you certainly don't need to remove the soil. Okay, here's a question. This came from Betty in Duluth. How late can I plant tomato seeds in pots?
Well, you can plant them right now.
You plant them anytime.
Plant them I will tell you, we don't plant our tomatoes in the field until July 1st. And we have great harvest. So I think people need to be mindful of the temperature of their soil and just maybe back up on when they're putting in their tomatoes.
Now, Betty was starting from seed rather than transplants. So right now it might be a little late to start from seed, because you can get the plant, but you got to get fruit set, and you got to get harvested before the frost. So you want to think about that. We usually say by about May 1st or so, that's kind of the cutoff date, starting from seed. Okay, we've got Kathy in International Falls. What perennial ornamental grass and clay soil for Zone 2? They might actually be Zone 3 at this point, but
that's an easy one, isn't it? Carl Forster. That's the only one we ever recommend is Carl Forster.
I think that is definitely the case. Next, we are going to take a look at the hills of West Duluth. You'll find some spectacular views down below. As well as looking up, you'll also find some great sights. That includes one beautiful garden that keeps growing in more ways than one.
I grew up on a farm, and we grew crops, and my mother always had flowers. However, her flowers were planted just like vegetables. They were in straight rows. And so I just everywhere we've lived, always just did some gardening, and of course, started this one 28 years ago, and actually what you see now as you come in, probably about half of that was lawn, and I just keep developing and moving over and taking out the grass and adding more in. I see something I like, I gotta have it, and so it just evolved over the years. It certainly didn't look like this to start with. Started out pretty much with a blank slate. The first year my first one was towards the end of August, so a lot of the flowers were kind of past their peak. And then the second year, moved it up about the first part of August, and that's really the peak in my gardens. This is my mother and dad's wedding picture, and that is the door off the original door off their two-room house is where I grew up. Well, it was later, it was an addition to it, but so that's their wedding picture. I've got a lot of, I call them memories. I got things here from my parents' farm, from my travels. Just about everything has a story, and some of them are long and probably too long, and then probably some not so long. But I've probably been in every garden center, you know, around the area, and every time I go by one, I stop, and every place has something different, and so I'm always looking for something different to try. I was checking Facebook, or I would watch Facebook, and I'd see all these paintings from Renoir and Monet, and they always had all these potted gardens, no soil, in the streets, and I thought, this looks beautiful. And then last winter I went to Puerto Vallarta and walked up with the area what they call Gringo Gulch, and I saw again the same thing. And so I started gathering pots and roses and whatever. I have all the tags from everything I bought in a plastic box in my garden shed. So if you wanted to sort through there, you could find something for everything. This is a weeping larch, deciduous, so it'll turn golden in the fall, and then it loses its needles. These are all poppies that you see here. You know, they're just about done. But I just took a few of those poppy seed heads and just spread them around there, and that's what I ended up getting. The greenhouse I built exactly 10 years ago. I stick built the bottom here myself, and of course again we have the corrugated metal from my dad's farm, barn roof. You don't want to follow those directions because they could be wrong. This garden part, I call it a garden party that I've been having for 8 years. It used to be people would say, are you going to have it again next year? And now they want to know the date. It is work, but however, I just can't sit still and do nothing. It's just, I can go out here in the morning and come out, and maybe some days you have no plans of what you're going to do, but you see something that needs to be done. Before they know it, the day is over. You come in and you have dinner, you sit down in your chair, you fall asleep until it's time to go to bed. And I don't know, I just love it.
Wow, Bill just keeps adding to the beauty of this garden and to our community. So thank you so very much for that tour and for what you're doing, Bill. Now it's time to answer a few more of your questions, and they're coming in, so keep sending them. Here's a question. This is Mary from Holyoke. We want to plant evergreens to grow 15 to 20 feet. Suggestions to deter deer. I know what not to plant.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think you want to stay away from the northern white cedar or arborvitae unless you really want to wrap and fence. Any thoughts?
I mean, there's so many choices.
There are.
Right, depends on how big they want them to get. I mean, there are just a ton of things they could put in there.
Many things. I think you want to look into that spruce family.
Yeah,
because deer resistance, they just don't like the sharp needles. Again, back to your discussion about what they're going to taste. So there are any number, black spruce, white spruce. This is blue Norway spruce. Blues can be a little bit more susceptible to disease, but we've got a number of miniaturized, so you want to work with a local nursery, I think, on that. But spruce is going to be a good option for you there. Here's Kathy from Duluth. She has a circular white mold on her squash. This is last year, I'm assuming. Can I plant the same soil? Should I replace the soil?
She doesn't have to replace the soil at all, no. And it's, powdery mildew.
This is powdery mildew.
That's what they're prone to get it, but there are new varieties that are available that are more resistant.
You want to look at that a little bit in the catalog. Sometimes it's not a real aggressive fungi. Usually hits late in the season. Not soil-borne, foliar-borne, so clean all of that material up. But should not be too much of a problem, really. And good question with the moisture. It's been dry, at least in subsoils. This was Eric from Duluth. He asks, how early should I start watering? Everything looks so very dry.
Like what? I'm not sure what looks really dry.
Yeah, that's not my experience. That surface is very dry, but if you get a spade in down there, we're really pretty moist. So I think if you're putting annuals in, or if you're planting
I don't think you're
new
putting
material.
Yeah.
I think it is a good question because even though there seems to be plenty of moisture, certainly in the topsoil, anytime you're putting a perennial in, let's get some water in there with it at that particular time.
Transplant.
At transplant time, very definitely. Oh, here we go on, make sure we get this one covered. This is Sharon from Cloquet, and she wants to control cutworms on her azaleas. Ever seen a cutworm?
Nope, I have not.
We have lots of cutworms. I've seen too many of them.
You do a lot.
We have about 40 different, actually, varieties that climb and cut a lot of tomato plants off. But they're not particularly aggressive on woodies.
Woodies, right, yeah. It's not going to cut through that.
No. So she's got another issue. Maybe she could call again and tell us if it's on the leaves or where it is. There are a number of other insects that are probably causing the problem. If we had a little better idea.
And is it really a problem? Or
call us again, Sharon, give us a little bit more detail, and we'll try to follow up on that for you. Okay, here's a question. This came from Ed in Duluth. Secret to growing great onions, type of soil, how deep, etc.
There you go.
Okay.
Here we go.
I think one of the secrets is getting started early.
Yep.
And you can start from transplants. That works real well. Greenhouses many times will grow them out for you. You can also start from bulbets. They were grown out last year. Typically, you don't get quite as large an onion that way, but I've seen people who've been very successful. Start early. They're shallow rooted. Make sure they have all of the moisture that they need down in that upper 2 to 4 inches. Keep the weeds under control. If you do all of those,
weed pressure,
weed pressure and adequate moisture as you go through the season. Okay, here's an individual. This is Joanne from Hibbing. She planted tomatoes from seed. She wants to know about fertility on tomatoes. Very, very good question. Yeah, she's got the transplants in. Let's assume that. We don't want too much nitrogen.
No.
Because we get so much foliage that plant does not set the flowers and you don't get the fruit.
Right.
The objective is not big plants, the objective is fruit. So that's a very good question. High in phosphorus, high in potassium, very low in nitrogen. Okay, this is what I would like to share with you tonight. If I have this opportunity, we had so many questions over this spring series on rhubarb, and it is a great northern vegetable. It's not a fruit, it is in fact a vegetable. Great for us because it's very hardy. It originated in Siberia. It's very easily grown. It has very few pests. The deer don't even like it, damn it.
I know.
That's after it emerges a bit. They will nip those buds, but it's very nutritious. It contains a lot of soluble and insoluble fiber, potassium, vitamin K, and it's a very versatile food provided you're adding enough sugar to it in many cases. But the culture is pretty easy. You can start from seed, and actually there's a lot of breeding work that's being done there. We're getting more and more different varieties, or the crowns. This is the underground rhizome. That's the easiest. You can cut those, you can move them. You want to divide these crowns right now in the early spring when you're selecting a new site. Oftentimes, you want to renovate, even though you've had that rhubarb patch for years. If you get in there and you open it up, you split the crowns, you'll be surprised at the new vigor. So you want to select a site that has full sun, good drainage, and you want to eliminate some of the competing weeds. So don't hesitate. Here's those emerging. This is taken just today, and very, very good indication that we've got a good season ahead for rhubarb. And you can see the leaves now beginning to unfold. Here's a couple of tips. People ask about fertility. You want a fertile soil to begin with, but you want to fertilize only in the early spring. You want a nitrogen source, big leafy plant, so it needs plenty of nitrogen. Your choice, organic or synthetic or inorganic, either one, but let's cut that spread right now. You're going to see some seed stalks. They want to cut those off as soon as they emerge because they pull energy from the plant. You want to harvest by pulling stems from the outside, and you want to stop harvesting before July 4th. That plant has to renovate itself. Here's the seed head. We're going to take those off. The sooner you get them off, the better you're going to be. And here again, you can see I pulled these from the outside. We like to pull them from the outside. People ask about cutting. You can certainly cut them, but you leave a stub. And anytime you leave a stub, there's a potential for the entry of disease as that begins to decay. So pull from the outside. And then, we've got a number of varieties. It's very interesting. These are our big ones in this area. Victoria, it's been around for a long time. Canada Red and Valentine are known for their red stalks that people really love. They look great in a pie. Glaskin's Perpetual is getting a little more attention because you can harvest that one just a little bit later into the season. But if you look at Europe and England in particular, they've got literally hundreds of different varieties. But I think this is an underappreciated vegetable for us here. It's the nice red stems here. And this is the red stems on Canada Red. And this is Glaskin's Perpetual, which has a kind of a unique appearance in the stems. You know, we want to caution you a little bit. The leaves are poisonous. They contain oxalic acid, but don't be overly concerned. Just don't consume them. The stems are never poisonous except if you get a very hard late spring frost. If the plant wilts, it forces some of this oxalic acid down into the stems. Cut all those off if that happens and let the plant regrow. Here's the leaves that everyone wants to stay away from. And this is something you might want to try. Just as they're emerging right now, this is the nice thing about doing a live show like this. Put a big dark tub over it and force that plant to stretch. There's no sunlight, so you're going to get elongated stems. They're going to be higher in sugar. They're going to be tender. They're going to be a bright red because there's no chlorophyll, of course. So try that, and don't forget about the Rhubarb Festival. This has become a real feature in Duluth in June 27th, 9 to 3, Asbury United Methodist Church on Grand Avenue. Great time.
Nice, nice.
Okay, now let's take a look at some more of your questions. This is Lori in Duluth. She has garlic up, and she's wondering when and what should I feed them with?
More organic material.
More
right?
organic. Again, the garlic is one of those that has these compounds, the sulfur compounds, the alkaloids that deer do not like. So there's a deer-proof crop. A little bit of nitrogen fertilizer, your choice. Again, you can use a synthetic out of a bag, lightly applied right now, or you can use an organic. Okay, here's a question. Ann from Duluth, how can I get rid of groundhogs?
Groundhogs?
Groundhogs, I've had too many experiences with groundhogs. They are very difficult to control. Once again, you're going to have to get aggressive with some kind of a trapping system. Or if you're out in the rural areas, maybe a 12 gauge or something, because they can be vicious and they can take down an awful lot of productivity. I had them take out maybe a quarter of an acre of cabbage. They just love that crop.
I love cabbage.
Till I finally got them under control. I wish I had better advice for you. They will dig under fences.
Okay.
So they're a challenge. Okay, now we've got Jake by the lake. I'm assuming it's the big lake. Good time to plant an apple tree.
Oh yeah.
Perfect time.
Yes, please
Yeah,
do.
the sooner in May that you can do this, the better off you're going to be.
Be prepared when you put it in.
And he wants a good cross-pollinator with honeycrisp. Now, let me caution about honeycrisp. Zone 4, right? Most of our areas north and away from the lake are Zone 3. So you might want to look for other varieties unless you're down near the lake for long-term durability. Will they grow in a clay soil? He's got multiple questions here. We're going to get them all answered. They will. You want, ideally, you'd like a sandy loam, but they will grow in a clay as long as there's drainage. Don't plant it down in a hole. Then the other thing is, be patient. With a clay soil, it takes a long time, but they will get established. Any other varieties for cross-pollinating that are your favorite, Steph?
Oh, well, State Fair.
Yeah, you can do that.
Is similar. Bloom time.
Bloom time.
You got to check out the bloom time and
yeah,
go
something
with
that's
that.
similar. I think Zestar is going to be another option that's going to be harder for people as well. But you've got a lot of options. Let's get 2 trees in there. That's the important thing. Even a crab, centennial crab, Dolga crab, they kick out an awful lot of pollen as well. Okay, here we go. This is interesting. This is John from Duluth, and of course he says, what critter's eating my rhubarb leaves? Even after I said that they nothing eats them. Don't worry about it. They'll eat the buds. It could be certainly deer at this point. Once they emerge, they're not a problem. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's it for our regular season, but we have several one-hour shows coming your way. We invite you to join us again at 7 p.m. on June 4th. For our summer special. Unfortunately, we didn't get to all the questions. We'll try to pick those up on that show. And until then, have a wonderful evening and wonderful spring planting time.
Removal provides tree care services in the Northland. Their certified arborists offer tree trimming, removal, and stump grinding for residential and commercial properties. More information at rickstreeduluth.com.
The Madeline Island Ferry, transporting passengers, bicycles, and vehicles between Bayfield, Wisconsin and Madeline Island, while our customers enjoy the beauty of Lake Superior and views of the Apostle Islands. Ferry schedule and information available at madfer